supposed to be in charge of your sharing or your economy if you don't have those very, very institutional offices being modified? But we are under the military dictatorship. I'm told these days, General Museveni is the bank of is the governor. I don't know if Museveni is the deputy because these days they share duties. So we need to also push to have these very important offices, at least have those vacancies filled, because the constitution empowers the Bank of Uganda and the Deputy Bank of Uganda in executing the standard of our shilling. So we cannot put General Museveni on account. After all, he's also occupying the office legally. I don't want to go any further, but it's upon Ugandans to understand that the government has no intervention and it will not intervene on our behalf. We only need to work towards ourselves liberating from this bad leadership. Without wasting any time, ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the Secretary General, David Lewis, to come and give us a message.
People power, our power, people power. You say that the owners had taken over, but they are speaking like the owners. People power, our power, our power. People power. Kunga Uganda, kunga. Kunga. Kunga Kampala, kunga. Kunga. Kunga Omoro, kunga. Kunga. Kunga Kamocha, kunga. Kunga. People power, our power. Thank you so much, Mr. Deputy President, Madam Deputy President North and Western, party leaders who are here, members of the press, comrades, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to use very few minutes. There are three main issues why we invited you here today, and we thank you, the press, for coming. The first one is about Omoro, the reflection therefrom. The second one is the question of commodity prices, and the third one is about our activities as a party moving forward. The first issue is about Omoro. All of you, countrymen and women, are aware that we went to Omoro to participate in the by-election there, and you also know what happened in Omoro. The question that is on the minds of many Ugandans is if it still makes sense to go for any election whatsoever, because what we have under Museveni and his corrupt regime are not elections, but something else. We went to Omoro, campaigned, did whatever we could. Our candidate, of course, was denied the opportunity to campaign fully, because for 2 days, out of 9 days that they were given for campaigns, he was summoned here by the Electoral Commission because they claimed that he had been illegally nominated or something like that. And we went to hit the ground with all our energy. And unfortunately, you all saw what happened. All the RDCs from northern Uganda were deployed in Omoro. And their duty there was not to have an election, but to have a selection of sorts through intimidation, bribery, and other forms of electoral violations. We saw unprecedented levels of bribery. Like we've been saying, the people of Omoro are some of the poorest in the whole world. And the whole night before elections, regime officials went around bribing them with soap and salt and sugar, commodities which are very expensive now. Secondly, on the day of voting, we had, previously they used to say, the opposition is not organized, they don't have polling agents and all that. But they reached polling stations, and by 5 or even 6 a.m., all polling stations were manned by NUP agents. And I want to appreciate the young men and women who braved all those challenges to guard the vote. And so what did the regime decide to do? To arrest them. And in the process, over 60 of our polling agents out of 84 polling stations were picked up, and of course supervisors. We have many of their bond forms. Some were charged with inciting violence, others with all sorts of things. You can imagine, they find someone at the polling station guarding the vote, and they just pick them up. So polling agents and others were arrested, bribery of supervisors. You find regime agents, the RDC and others, bribing polling electoral commission officials, presiding officers, and all that. And of course, the levels of intimidation for a village population or for a population in a remote area was too much for them. Up to now, we don't have a tally sheet, although we wrote to the Electoral Commission asking them for the tally sheet. Because the votes which they announced, I don't even know where they got them from. They just someone got 14,000 votes, when actually not even 6,000 people voted in an election. But the shameless Electoral Commission that we have had the courtesy, the guts, to say that someone got 14,000 votes. So you can imagine, in an election with a record low voter turnout, so the inflation of votes was incredible. And of course the failing of voters from neighboring districts to Omoro to participate in that election. We want to challenge the people who were there, especially the international community. We know that that election was observed by the National Consolidating Forum and others, but we want to challenge the European Union, especially the development partners. If they did not see what happened in other elections, now they had an opportunity firsthand to see what elections are under Museveni. And we have been making calls that you cannot continue associating with a government, with a regime, which has no respect for democracy, for the will of the people. These are the people who say that they had support in Omoro, that NUP could not cross Karuma, but then they had to do the most incredible things in an election. So we hope that the international community can actually take action and not continue identifying with a government which does not in any way respect democracy and the rule of law. The other topics are going to be spoken about by other leaders, but I will just say something about our activities continue massively. I want to say that General Museveni and his people, the reason why they are doing these things in elections, you saw what happened in Kayunga, you saw what they did now in Omoro. It is clear to us that their intention is so that the people of Uganda stop even going for elections. They want us to give up on elections. They want us to give up because they know that they do not have the support of the people whatsoever. The bad news that we want to give them as NUP is that we shall not give up going to our people. People power. People power. Power. If they think that by doing what they are doing, they are blocking us, they are stopping us from doing what we are supposed to do, we shall go there, we shall reach out to our people whenever an opportunity avails itself. These elections are not just about the results which the Electoral Commission declares. These elections are also about mobilizing our people and making the people understand. We know now that the people of Omoro know what kind of regime they live under, because they saw firsthand the level of deployment of all manner of people in that area. So if the regime thought that by doing what they are doing we are going to give up, no, we are not going to give up. But secondly, and this is a message to our people, every regime that has fallen had its, the reason why it failed. You know, I've been telling people that these elections that we are going for, one of these days, one of them will be the Waterloo of Museveni. So, let them continue doing this, joking with the people of Uganda. One of these days, they are going to touch a button which they will not be able to reverse. That one we know. So that is why we are not going to give up. We shall continue going there and showing the people of Uganda what is happening, well knowing that every regime that has fallen has done so many things and people have continued to put up with it, to resist it in some cases and all that, but they always have a button which they touch, and that causes becomes the Waterloo. Tumebaza nnyo abamawulire okujja leero tubalise kwogera ku nsonga ssatu zokka. Ekisooka twali mu Omoro mu kalulu, mwenna mukimanyi bulungi nnyo. Twagala kwogera ku nsonga z'Omoro, twogere ku miwendo gy'ebintu oba ebbeeyi y'ebintu eyeekanamye, n'ensonga endala bintu ki bye tukola ffe nga NUP ogenda mu maaso n'okuzimba maanyi. Ebikyali Omoro tekaali kalulu, era ffe ekyatutwalayo twagenda okugezaako okukunga abantu baffe eyo. Mujjukire bulungi nnyo nti abakolera Museveni baali bagambye nti NUP tesobola kugenda beyond Karuma. Karuma tesobola kusukawo ne tugenda mu Northern Uganda oba mambuka ga Uganda. Naye twagendayo abantu ne batwaniriza mu ssanyu nga bwe mwalaba. Ne tukola campaigns, abantu baffe nga gye bali solid. Era lukimu bwe yakiraba nti tebasobola kuwangula Omoro, ne basalawo okukola bye bakola e Kayunga n'awalala, ne bakola mu kalulu aka president. Era ne batandikira okugulira abantu baffe abaavu ennyo ab'omolo, ne batandika obawa sabuni, omunnyo, sukaali n'ebirala. Baali balowooza nti tetugenda kukuuma akalulu. Ebyembi yabakama yanansinga nti obululu oba materials z'okozesa kulonda bali bagenda zitwala bazitambuza ku ssaawa 9 ez'ekiro. Naffe ne tugamba abantu baffe kabatambule nga bukyali. Era ssaawa 10 ez'okumakya ssaawa 9 abantu baffe baali olwedde batandise okutambula. Ffe bwe twagendera ku polling stations ssaawa 11:12 nga aba agent baffe gye bali ready kukuuma akalulu. Lugimu nesalawo okukola ki? Ne batandika okukwata ba agent baffe abo ne supervisors. Era ku nkomerero ng'abantu abawera ddala 6 bakwatiddwa. Era bonna abasinga ne babayolizinga ku bond akawugezaako ne bateekako ebisango inciting violence, voter bribery n'ebirala ebitaliimu makulu. Ne bagenda mu maaso n'okubribinga abakolera akakiiko k'ebyokulonda oba bayita ba presiding officer, ne baintimidatinga abantu baffe. Era ne butwogerera tebanatuwa tale sheet. Ffe abaali omolo tukimanyi bulungi nnyo nti abantu abalonda tebawera na 6. Naye ne baleeta results nti yawangula alina 14,000. Ne babuuza baani abalala balonda okuweza omuwendo ogwo gwe mutulaze. Era balina n'okujja abantu mu disitulikiti ez'enjawulo lira n'awalala okusobola okujja okulonda mu kalulu ako. Byonna byonna bye babikola RDC mu mambuka bonna baali omolo, emmotoka mwaziraba ezaali tezirina number plates n'ebirala bwe bityo. Tukimanyi bulungi nnyo nti Mama Museveni n'abantu baali bagamba nti balina obuwagizi bungi nnyo mu Northern Uganda. Naye kati ensi yonna ekiraba nti obuwagizi bwogerako byanswa tebuliiyo, bya bulimba. Era twabachallenginga nti akalulu bwe mba mwekakasa nti mulina amaanyi muorganizinga akalulu akali free and fair, mulabe NUP kyegenda okubakola. Kakati tumanyi bulungi nnyo nti ekigendererwa kyabwe ekyokola bino byonna kyatutamisa akalulu oba otutamya bino ebyokulonda. Amawulire amabi ge tulina gye bali tujja kugenda mu maaso n'okukunga abantu baffe. Akalulu oba activity kyonna eriyo, kubanga akalulu tetugendayo just okulangirirwa, tugenda n'okumobilizinga abantu baffe. Kati abantu b'omolo bamanyi lugimu ki gye balivinga under. Oba oli awamu baali balowooza nti tuli mu demokrasiya oba kiki. Naye kati abantu ba omolo n'aba Northern Uganda general kati bonna bona bategedde kiki kye tulina. Era tumanyi nti olwo lunaku bannayuganda bonna bwe bavaayo ne bagamba tugenda kwejjako ekibambulira ky'abantu bano, n'ab'omolo bagenda kwenyigiramu kubanga kati bategeera bulungi nnyo lugimu ki eri mu Uganda. N'abantu obutalonda obutavaayo baali batono nnyo n'abalonda, kubanga baali batubuuza kati tugende tulonde mu ki ng'abantu amateeka twetolodde n'ebirala bwe bityo. Ekisembayo tulina akalulu k'abakyala akabindabinda lyakunga activities tusaba abantu baffe mwenyigire mu nkola zaffe zino, teekateeka zaffe. Tumanyi bulungi nnyo nti buno obululu bwe tugendamu pulezidenti waffe nga bwazze abagamba, Museveni alinga anyiga amapeesa ag'enjawulo ng'anoonya epeesa erigenda mutwala. Oba oli awo epeesa erigenda mutwala ke kalulu akabbe mu disitulikiti emu oba endala. So ffe tugende mu maaso nga tukunga nga tukola bye tulina okukola. Oba oli awo bajja kakwatamu ku mulundi ogumu bagezeeko bitaninga nga tebakyasobola, ng'ensi yonna evuddeyo negamba ekimala kimala. Ebirala kansala bakulembeze banange baba babyogerako. Mwebali nnyo, mwebali eddala. People power, our power, people power.
Let me invite Mama Jole to come and also then you will invite Mama Zendiga, who will invite
People power. Our power. People power. Our power. People power. Our power. Mujiramani. Hey. Mujiramani. Our guest this afternoon, the Leader of Opposition in Parliament and VP Central Region, my colleague, VP Northern Uganda, the Secretary General, all of you leaders of NUP in your various capacities, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the press. For us in Western Uganda, I don't know if any of you members of the press is on UBC West. There is a radio Uganda called UBC West, and they present all this information. I don't know if any of you comes from there, but if not, I'd like to request the SG that next time we invite the press, let someone from there be there, so that the people can also hear from us. The three topics we are supposed to talk about, I happen to have been an eyewitness. I personally went to Omoro as a member of the National Consultative Forum, therefore an observer, independent observer. I moved around with other members from other parties and members of the Electoral Commission. Therefore, I am not going to disclose what I saw. But that doesn't mean that inside me, even when I was wearing that hat and that coat, labeled observer, that I was not a member of NUP and the VP for Western Region. So I had my eyes open. We are still coming up with a very sad report. You can deduce from there what that means. I saw what happened, and I believe that since the National Consultative Forum works closely with the Electoral Commission, our report will have an impact next time. But it was no good at all. It wasn't good at all. Yeah, I saw our leaders in prison. I saw them being crumpled somewhere because they could not speak the language. And I called our lawyers to intervene. I did that, and I thank God that most of them were released after a few interrogations here and there. Of course, the prices. I come from Mbarara. I live in Mbarara, and I'm in charge of the whole of Western Uganda. Now, I was putting fuel of 250 to come to Kampala and drive me back. You cannot know that prices have gone up until you go to the supermarket, until you go to the fuel pump, until your child is going back to school. I have seen people, you know what is ironical in Uganda is that most people think that things are okay in Western Uganda because the dictator comes from there. But I want to categorically say today that things are worse even in Western Uganda. We are dying alive. We have actually died. We are suffering locally. The Banyankore, the Bachiga, those people from Soro, we are worse than the people of Omoro. Mr. Secretary General, they are people. In fact, if you see the school constructed in the nearby countries, we have seen schools being constructed in Tanzania. We see roads being built in Congo, and yet there are no roads in Uganda. Even in Western Uganda, there is only one Kaguta Road, named after the ancestor of the father of the dictator. Only one road from Muriantonda, and it goes that side. But all these other areas, I want to tell you people of Uganda that things are bad and we are being pushed to the wall, but I believe that one day, we shall all get up and say no. And that day is soon. I believe that you believe that. Our mission. I joined NUP as an opposition party with the mission to remove the dictator. I want to end by saying that all of you Ugandans have a very big role to play. I know there are many people out there who are eating from the regime. Those ones will come and chase us around. They are the ones actually who are imprisoning us. They are chasing us around. They are isolating us in some of the areas. They don't want to talk to us. But I know there are many more who are suffering, who are actually, the yoke is too heavy. And that reminds me about what is happening about the birthdays I see around. You know, in the Bible, there was a king who used to mistreat the children of Israel. And when he was removed, his child, his son, took over. So the man of God went to that person, to the new king, to ask him for a favor. And the man of God said, the son said that my father mistreated, gave you 20 strokes of cane, me I am going to give you 200. In other words, I'm going to increase your yoke. So I want to warn Ugandans about this that I see happening. I even saw Banyankore in Indonesia also celebrating, and I was like, hey, you don't know what is coming for you. You have been buying soap at 10,000, you are going to buy it at 100,000. In other words, the yoke of Ugandans is increasing day by day because of what is happening. The level of expenditure, careless expenditure, I don't care attitude, you know, this adamance of some people of Ugandans who think that they are leading us. So I want to end by calling upon Ugandans. All get up and join us. Get up and join us. There is one small brick you can put in the struggle. We certainly remove the dictator. I want to say that sooner or later, if all of you come, we shall remove the dictator.